Without further ado, please welcome our incredible table of stars from Iron Man 3. Shane Black, Rebecca Hall, Robert Downey Jr., Gwyneth Paltrow, Sir Ben Kingsley, Don Cheadle, and Mr. Drew Pearce.
Warm reception. I'm nervous.
I'm going to kick things off and then we'll throw out to the crowd if that's okay. And I'm going to start at the far end to my good friend Drew Pearce at the end, who managed to get Croydon into the script. So a round of applause for that at the start. Yes!
Croydon.
Drew, can I ask about the tone of the film? Because the tone of the film is incredible. How easy is that to get in a script?
Well, it helps if you co-write it with Shane Black, who also directed the movie. And it also helps if you have these guys actually in it. So, and also we had an amazing template in Iron Man 1, you know, and all the work that Jon Favreau did there. So really, it was ours to screw up, and hopefully we didn't do that.
Next, Don Cheadle, how are you, sir?
Oh, hello, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
Good.
The relationship between you and Robert Downey Jr. characters in this film is great. It's boys and their toys and having a great bit of... Was that fun to explore?
Well, you know, I always have fun with Robert whenever we do anything. So this in the film was easy. Doing the movie was great. Yeah, we had a lot of fun and had an opportunity to really take that relationship, you know, sort of to the next level, and had a lot of fun, you know, in some rooms with Shane and Drew, just chopping it up, really.
So Ben, this was a whole new world for you. How was that world to enter?
Well, as a compliment to the rest of the people at the table, and deeply intended, the welcome that they give to a new boy is extraordinary. I think it's a measure of their confidence and their joy in what they do and what they've created in the franchise. But the welcome they gave to me was so assured, so generous, and so confident. Within seconds, I felt like a team player. It was a really extraordinary experience for me.
Thank you. Gwyneth, Pepper gets to kick ass in this film. That must have been fun to explore.
It was great. I mean, part of the fun of doing these films is that Pepper keeps evolving, and it was really fun. And congratulations on your new baby, Edith.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.
Not easy to do that.
Robert.
Yes, Jim.
We see him stripped for the first time of everything that he kind of relies on in this film.
Yes.
But was that great to explore the layers of the character more so in this film?
Yeah, I mean, we all figured after Avengers we couldn't go for more of a spectacle, so I'm just so pleased as people are seeing the movie that they're telling us that we kind of did this correctly. Enough for me to be proud to announce the next installment, where it will just be Rebecca and I, called Iron Man 4 Parade's End. There'll be a lot of this.
Rebecca, similar to Ben coming into this gang, you know, who've already 2 films in, but with a strong female character as well, but drawn to this man who what is her attraction to him?
What's her attraction to Tony Stark?
Yeah.
No idea. No, I think she's there's something of, you know, she's an equally driven scientific genius, and there's somewhat of a parity between them, and yet not at the same time. And you know, she's just her focus is very much she's very tunnel vision in that respect.
And finally, Shane, before we throw out to the crowd, a film that kind of arrives at the end of 2 previous films, almost kind of like a sequel to 2 films. Did that bear that in mind when you approached this project, or was it kind of starting from a blank canvas?
I think when you do anything that's at number 3 after it, you'd have to just ask yourself, how can we pretend that this was supposed to happen anyway? You know, what's the story left to tell that makes it seem in retrospect like it was just waiting to get itself told? And I think finding the things that you like about Iron Man that haven't been mined yet and trying to include them in such a way that, you know, it's weird because it's not a trilogy. There's another movie called The Avengers that's in the middle, so it's almost like the trilogy and then us. It was weird. He saves the world, he perfects his technology, and Iron Man has sort of emerged as this global superhero. So then we had this fourth movie in a way. So still looking for the thing that hasn't been explored yet, trying to find something different. And Jon Favreau was just a goddamn prince in terms of coming to me and saying, John, how'd you do it on number one? How'd you get those, you know, what was your thinking? How do I stay true to the lineage and the legacy of what you've established and make a different tone from the Avengers, but one that's consistent with what you like? And here's a guy who had every stake, and he could have come on and bored and been like kind of a disrespectful, I'm not in this anymore. Instead, he was the most gracious, helpful, wonderful participant in this process. So he helped me a hell of a lot.
Okay, we're going to open out the floor, and our first question comes from Jessica in the front row, who's 15 from Liverpool's Park Film Club.
This question is for the casting director. Tony Stark is enhanced by the Iron Man suit. How much does that define him? And if any of you were to have an enhancement, what would it be and why?
Not touching.
It's the most ineffective microphone in British history.
She said that Iron Man's defined by his suit, and if any of you were to be defined by a piece of armour in a way, what would it be? Who wants to kick off with that one?
I think the film really does explore the exterior, the suit, the layer, and what's inside it on many levels. And I think that's what Drew and Shane, that's what they gave to it, heart and vulnerability. There are moments of terrific violence, always followed by a moment of tenderness, comradeship, banter, vulnerability. I think that the structure of the film and its grace for me to participate in is that movement from the indestructible and infallible to the completely vulnerable. So it's those swings that fascinate me, and I know we were all keen to be in on the same page to explore the bubble that you live in and what's inside, what's in the middle of a bubble. I live in a bubble anyway, so I'm fine.
Don, any genetic enhancements that you don't already possess?
That was the one question I was going to avoid. Thank you, Robert. The ability to see into the future so that I could have stopped you from asking me that question. Although that's not genetically enhanced. So I think I'm perfect in every way, so I wouldn't change anything.
There's a gentleman filming over there with a, there we go, question from you, sir. There we go.
I took my 8 and 6-year-old to see the film last night, and they loved it. But it did start a very vocal argument in the back of the car today about who had the best suit, whether it be Don or Robert. From Hagen Con, could you please end the argument? Who had the best suit?
Define best.
You define it.
Oh, we are in Britain. Thank you. Thank you. I was waiting for that. We just wanted to get to a point where kids would be having that conversation when they left the theater.
Right.
You know, we wanted people to be having conversations about genetic enhancements and what does this mean, and is terrorism, you know, media driven or whatever, without being political. So I'm just happy that I'm very happy that those arguments are occurring. They're arguments about entertainment.
Gentleman there, second one.
My favourite scene in the film is the reveal where you find out that a certain character isn't perhaps a certain character.
Come on now, I warned you. I warned you.
No, I haven't done that yet. My question is for Mr. Cheadle, Mr. Downey, and Mr. Black. Did you rehearse that sequence heavily? Was a lot of it improvised? And how did the two of you bounce off each other with that reveal, that big reveal?
Okay.
Shane, you want to start?
Well, these are fabulously talented people who have the ability to make structures seem like improv. They knew the scene backwards and forwards, and they performed it, and they performed it in such a loose, wonderful way that it makes it seem like it's just occurring in the moment, and they're just dancing and thinking on their feet. No, this was, we covered it like every other scene. We shot it like every other scene. It's probably the truest to the script of most any scene in there, and it's one of the best because of the talents of the people involved. And in particular, just seeing Sir Ben open up, and that was, at the end of that day, at the end of the shooting day, the crew spontaneously applauded after that scene.
Gentleman in the first row over there.
This follows on. So Ben, what was your reaction when you were handed a script which suggested that you were playing a man with more than a large streak of theatrical ham running through his backbone? And does it presage a leer from you, maybe in Croydon in the future?
I felt completely at home on reading the script. Of the many devices that the Mandarin employs, all of them are rooted in observation on my part. And I won't name names, but some members of the audience might even recognize that I'm doing them, as they say. Beautiful script, and as Shane rightly points out, there's very little deviation from what was on the page by Drew and Shane. I love good writing. There it was. There was our map. There was our mandate, and we followed it pretty well to the letter.
Question in the front row here, please.
Question, I guess, maybe for Shane. Film and yourself are at the forefront of a wave of movies that are getting co-financed or co-produced in the East as well as the West. I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about your experience in many ways a trailblazer for what's coming over the next few years.
I don't know that I'm at the forefront of that. I think that this movie represented an opportunity to strike a deal and do a co-financing thing. It's not something I know a lot about. It's something I let other people negotiate, and then I sort of participate as needs be. And I think it'll be interesting to see the way that this is co-released with a separate version in China and one here. I think it's all fascinating stuff, but it's way over my head, frankly, in terms of giving you any predictions.
Young gentleman in the front row there. Sorry.
Hello, my name is Jan. I'm a student at Royal Hall University of Mountain Media Art Department. First of all, I would like to thank you all for making such an amazing film. It's a great honor to Ironman's legacy and 50th anniversary. I have a question for Mr. Downey. But first of all, sir, I think you're one of the most extraordinary actors of our time. I've seen all of your films since Down, and I would like to thank you for the futurist. My question is, your character has a post-traumatic stress disorder, and despite all the danger and the chaos that he experiences in this film, he still keeps on moving forward bravely without looking back. And how did you manage to achieve that balance? Because so many superheroes nowadays on the big screen tend to cry over those things or go into depression, but your superhero, Tony Stark, he's just unbreakable. He's truly the invincible Iron Man.
How much did you pay him? How much? How much did you pay him?
This is definitely
Just
applause.
say how much you paid him.
Let's have dinner. Again, I think what I really liked about this was, in a post-Avengers world, we just asked questions. Wouldn't he be a little bit freaked out? And then that wound up being part of the theme, I mean, Sir Ben is right in that, some of the stuff we didn't rest on our laurels, but we exacted it, as it was. And a lot of the stuff we were very flexible, and we were often talking about things. I think what Sir Ben isn't telling you is that there was other scenes and parts in the movie where essentially we would throw any and every idea we could at him, and he would bounce it back, and it could have been in the movie. Because he was throwing heat like it was the 6th game of the World Series, and he was the winning pitcher. And Don and I would just kind of play off that. But also with Gwyneth and I have made a habit of doing that with Tony and Pepper. And when Rebecca joined us, as she operates in both the past, Tony's past, she's kind of the prime mover of the story moving forward. All these things we try to be as flexible as possible. But the trauma thing to me was just, again, asking the question and getting away from this. We can't beat the spectacle of Avengers, so let's ask wouldn't it actually be like this if we were back in Tony's world? Thank you.
Great.
I adore you.
Just along from where you are, the microphone, and then we'll come to you, sir.
Hi, Ben from Men's Fitness Magazine. I've got a two-part question for Robert. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. A two-part question. You're in great shape for the film. Was there anything specific you did in terms of training or gym work to get in shape for the role? And then the second part, of all the film roles you've done, which was the most physically challenging and why?
I'm required to say that I was doing some Tracy Anderson training, which Gwyneth Paltrow is central to. I hate to say it, Don is actually in better shape than I am.
No.
And he's more physically capable. But I'm not going to let it stay like that.
No, that is true.
When fitness magazines are asking me what I'm up to, that's what moves me. I want there to be no question that the dialogue between Don and I on who's more fit is going to end with Iron Man 17. Old guys jacked up on growth hormone.
That's it.
I think any of us could say that who've been around before. So I think for Don and Gwyneth and I, we all moved around more than we expected to.
Yeah, I think this one was tough.
Yeah.
Okay, gentleman over here. Have you got the microphone there, sir?
Yes, a question for Shane Black. And obviously this is a huge franchise, juggernaut of a movie. Did you have any sort of trepidation getting on board that juggernaut? And just as a follow-up, you're sitting here with Robert, so I have to ask you, is there any chance of a return to the characters you brought us in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang in any shape?
Taking the second first, yeah, it would be nice, wouldn't it? But no, because it just didn't make the coffers overflow. No one was paying to see Kiss Kiss Bang Bang when they needed to. It was a hit here, but yeah, but this is what's Britain's box office comparatively to the U.S.? It's like a half.
Let's not do the math.
All right. The point is this: what was the other part of the question? That's what I want to know. Oh yeah, the bigness of it. It doesn't matter because if you make an action film, I think we all know what that's supposed to be, but it's just quantifying it. So it's the extent to which we can access what we already know. Action doesn't change if you're doing a car chase or if you're doing science fiction. And more important than that is the ability to generate a story that works. Because I think, and this is very important for me, movies look great nowadays for the most part. Movies sound great. You don't hear someone say, I just went to see the new big budget movie. God, it sounded shitty. Because technically things are perfect. The stories are not always engaging. They're not always perfect. And so as long as I have a chance to come on board and sort of dictate or try to give flesh to a story that makes sense and works, and I have people on board to collaborate with like Robert Downey, I know we're going to make a shape. We're going to make a stew that could be fun. I don't care how much it costs or what scale it's at. The story's what's important. The spectacle is simply a part of telling that story, and it's not the other way around. The tail doesn't wag the dog. So the bigness of the picture, to me, is the least interesting thing about it, and the innovation and the talent behind it and the funniness of it and all that stuff is what I'm most proud of, and I think all these people here have done a marvelous job. Thank you.
Gentleman in the pink shirt in the second row.
Excellent. Fantastic film, guys. You did a stand-up job, so well done. In terms of Shane and Robert, you've obviously worked together, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Robert, from interviews I've seen before, you like to collaborate with the script and improvise and do stuff very with the directors. Did you find you're returning to Tony Stark again, did you find working with Shane reinvigorated, gave you new toys to play with, a whole new take on the character, making you fresh again? And lastly, would you direct a Marvel movie? Because you have...
You mean just eliminate the middleman? No, excellent question. Well, first of all, I had a really good time making this movie, and I don't often set out to imagine I'm going to just like have a fun time shooting, because these things, they're genre movies, but we take them pretty serious, and then things get all stressy, and the one thing you shouldn't have said, Shane, is you don't care how much it costs, because you're going to get offered a bunch of movies, and you have to be mindful of budget. I'm going to strike that from your court minutes. In case you haven't noticed, Shane and I aren't talking right now. Success has driven us apart. But I'd like to hear from some of our other cast members, being between Shane and I, arguably several of the most self-obsessed and eccentric human beings on earth.
Rebecca, would you tell Mr. Downey that I agree with that?
He had.
I hate it when mum and dad fight.
Yeah, I want to follow up that question about whether you direct.
Yeah, I don't. You want me to?
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds so exhausting.
Okay. Question from a gentleman there.
Hello. Question for Gwyneth. Hi, I'm a massive fan of your work. I think you're fantastic as Pepper. I just wanted to ask, are Chris and Apple and Moses fans of the Iron Man series? What do they think of your performance, and are they excited for Iron Man 3?
We said no personal questions.
Oh,
Do you
well,
mind?
But if you want to,
that's okay. Thank you. And yes, we all saw it last night together with all of my kids' friends, and everybody loved it. And I, including myself, I was really surprised.
Shocked. You're such a snob.
No, I was surprised because normally, like when we were on set, I find it difficult to follow the plot of these on paper, and you know, who's getting shot up with what, and who's bad and who's good. It all gets very confusing, but the movie plays so well, and it was so much fun to watch, and I was really amazed by, you know, the job that Shane did, and I thought it was really good, and so did my family, so thanks.
Front row, gentleman with the...
Thank you. I'd just like to say that brilliant, thank you. I'd just like to say that I'm a big fan of the film, and I really sympathise with the character who had a man crush on Iron Man, because I have a similar situation. But my question goes out to any of you here, really. My question is, are there any stories, comics, or characters you'd like to see come into future Iron Man or Avengers movies, etc.?
Who would like to answer that one? Robert?
I like that you're looking at me.
Yeah, I do too.
Do the comics thing.
Come on, you know what you're doing.
Well, obviously I have no idea what's coming next. We do know that obviously Joss is doing Avengers 2, so he is a wonderful arbiter of taste, so he will dip into the canon brilliantly, I'm sure. And, you know, obviously this movie is a tribute to, like, you know, Warren Ellis and Matt Fraction and some of the brilliant modern day writers of the comics, which feels appropriate to give a shout out to. But who knows what comes next? Or if there's a next, Robert.
Well
That was
batted.
very informative, Drew.
And that's cricket.
That's cricket.
Lady in the front row. Sorry, making you run with the microphone.
Hi, my name's Alison Jones. I was just wondering where the fondness for Downton Abbey came from. It's included in the script, and are you looking to sort of even get roles as American cousins who can shake things up in the second act?
Where did the Downton Abbey thing come from?
That was all John.
I think it was Jon Favreau's idea.
Yeah, it's true.
Secret fan.
Yeah, I think A, he likes it, and B, he thought, what would be the strangest thing that Happy could be obsessed with watching? But he liked it because isn't the driver in love with the gal? He thought the themes were concurrent.
Perfect. Gentleman on the side there with the microphone.
Question for Gwyneth. I'm sure this is heresy to half the room, but I wasn't a comic book fan growing up. So I don't know, was Pepper Potts such a sort of strong figure in the comics, or is that something that's developed over the films? And was it an appeal to you as a strong female character in a comic book movie?
You know, I had never even heard of Iron Man until Jon Favreau called me, and I didn't grow up, you know, reading comics at all. But when the first Iron Man came about, I'd taken a few years off, and I was home having kids and stuff. there was no script, so I was really flying blind because I didn't know anything about the comics or the movie that we were going to do, and Robert and John talked me into doing it. And it's been a great journey playing Pepper. In every movie, you know, I think she gets to have a real evolution, and I think Iron Man 3 is definitely her most fun and interesting of all the roles so far. So, you know, I never would have thought of myself as being in a comic book superhero movie, and now I'm so happy that it's been my main job for the last 6 years. I've had such a good time.
Gentleman with the microphone over there.
Hello, I'm Paltrow from Italy. Question for Downey. We see Tony Stark experiencing anxiety in the movie. Now I want to ask you, at this time of your career, do you have anxiety if a contract is going to be over soon, or do you have anxiety as a free artist when some major studio wants to put you under contract for 17 movies? Thank you.
Stop asking me questions. You're making me anxious. Particularly not questions like that. Don? Don always calms me down.
Do they still do 17 picture?
They do at Marvel.
I'm gonna get one of those.
Okay, we've got one last question from the lady second in, right there. Sorry. Oh, killed the computer.
Hi, question for Robert. Tony Stark has saved the world a lot now, and yet people, fellow billionaire entrepreneurs like Donald Trump, Richard Branson, don't seem concerned about supervillains. Do you think they should be, and how do you think those kind of guys would get on if they had to spend a day in the life of Iron Man?
It's a really random last question.
It's like performance art.
You know, I'm pretty quick. I think I'm pretty witty. But I might be out of steam. Why don't you repeat the question after we leave? And after I've had dinner with him, maybe you'll come over for an aperitif. I wouldn't know how to answer that question, but all I know is we're doing something right. I'm really glad that audiences are responding to this movie. You know, being able to do this again with Dawn and Gwyneth is a great pleasure. But having Sir Ben having rocketed us into another dimension with arguably the most complicated arc in superhero history, and the over-talented Rebecca Hall showing up and doing us a big solid and classing the joint up has just made this a most delightful experience. And Drew and Shane listened to us all run our mouths for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then they said thank you very much, went away, and came back with the script, which is the story we shot. And that's the reason we're sitting here, and that's the reason most of you aren't saying this film sucks. Don't ever waste our time again.
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Thank you.